You're listening to the Dr. Chris Show. Are you tired of the short-term patch to your health problems? Is avoiding medications and surgeries important to you? If you answered yes, then your prayers have been answered. Dr. Chris has been helping people transform their health for over a decade. He's a world-renowned health expert who specializes in holistic health. He's a professional speaker, chiropractor, and international best-selling author. It's his mission to help you reach your full God-given potential through holistic health and healing. Get ready to be inspired and transformed. Here's your host, Dr. Chris.
All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode where disease takes a dive and people come to thrive. And today we've got the awesome and multi-talented, as I come to find out, Justin Nault. He's the founder and CEO of Clovis, a health and wellness brand dedicated to building communities of like-minded individuals. So I love people that are on the same page as us, right? Building healthier lives together. He's also a certified nutritional therapist and health coach, and he's transformed the lives of over 2,200 people in just about the first 2 years since founding Clovis. So he's making a big impact. He's got some cool products like the superfood powders, the perfect paleo powder. We all love that stuff. And here's the thing, like many before him in the health and wellness industry, he didn't choose nutrition. Justin really says that nutrition chose him. So we're going to talk about some of those events in his life that led him to where he is today. And just like I said, a multifaceted person who's been on TV and reality TV, and he's a dueling pianist, which we're going to talk about here in a second, but he's got quite a story. So let's go ahead and introduce Justin. Justin, good to have you on today.
Man, I'm so excited to be here. It's an honor. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris.
Absolutely, man. So I really want to hear your story of what led you from being a pop artist to being a leader in the biohack industry with your nutrition and your coaching. How'd that happen?
Yeah, it's an interesting story, man. Like a lot of people, my health and wellness journey really came from a place of vanity and insecurity, honestly. Like you said, I've basically spent my entire adult life on stages. The last 10 years of my career, I did about 300 shows per year. And then obviously reality TV happened back in 2012, and I had a YouTube channel and all these things. So for me, it was always, I was being judged very heavily on my appearance, which was never good for me. But it spawns all the way back to childhood. One of my first vivid memories, I was between 8 to 10 years old, I can't remember, and just jogging down the street playing with my friends, and a car full of grown men pulled up, rolled down their window, and just said, "Run, fat boy, run."
Oh, man.
And that was it, man. It just put me on this trajectory of like tremendous body dysmorphia my whole life. So by age 15, you know, I'm lifting weights in the basement for 2 hours a day and running on a treadmill. And it was the early days of e-commerce, like the early 2000s. So I was able to get my hands on like ephedrine and hydroxycut and all this crazy stuff. So I was just obsessed with fitness, knew nothing about nutrition. And I'm taking all the supplements from Muscle and Fitness magazine. This is like what a lot of teenage boys did.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I went to school in Boston. I was boxing in Boston. And then I moved down to Nashville. My music career started taking off, and I got into CrossFit and powerlifting and strong first kettlebells and Insanity, P90X, all the stuff. But I was like 28% body fat, just like working my tail off and couldn't lose the fat, way overtraining. And I'm on stage every night. And I'm like, I'm hating what I see. And I remember the reality TV show, like I just had this chubby chin and I hated it, right? So I finally stumbled upon paleo, did my first few like paleo resets, and thanks to Rob Wolf, Chris Kresser, guys like that, started dropping body fat effortlessly. And I became obsessed with nutrition. So I ended up going to school, became a nutritional therapist, a certified specialist in sports nutrition, all this stuff. But the reason I say it started with vanity, then the universe just kicked me in the face, was my brother gave birth to my niece, Savannah. My brother's wife gave birth, obviously. Mm-hmm. And she was born having 300 plus seizures a day. Wow. So we spent the first several months of her life in pediatric ICUs. We worked with the Cleveland Clinic, Vanderbilt Neurology. We got involved with the Charlie Foundation. You might know about the Charlie Foundation. They use the ketogenic diet as a therapeutic modality for children having seizures. So we kind of just fell into this thing. I mean, she deteriorated quickly. Her life expectancy was less than 3 years. She was put on a G-tube. She's being fed through a G-tube. And they had this ketogenic baby formula called KetoCal. This is in every pediatric ICU in the country. It's staggering. It's technically keto because it's high carb, low fat, but the first 4 ingredients are hydrogenated vegetable oils. And then most of the remaining ingredients are like electrolytes, some vitamins, and artificial sweeteners. So I knew just enough about nutrition to be like a real problem for the conventional doctors. And I'm like, what is this? This is a carcinogen in a can.
Yeah.
And you're putting it into the G-tube of babies, right? And the neurologist looked at the ingredients and he said, I've never thought to look at that. And I was like, what? And that was it. It shifted from nutrition for vanity to nutrition for purpose. And I ended up I bought food dehydrators and processors, NutriBullets, used my oven. I started taking paleo superfoods, dehydrating them, blending them together like coconut milk, cacao. I dehydrated chicken livers, salmon roe, all this crazy stuff for months till I got something somewhat decent, taste-wise, whatever. And I was cleared by the neurologist to give this to Savannah in her G-tube. And then food and beverage and consulting company came in. We turned it into a powder. I started selling on Amazon, working with CrossFitters because I was into CrossFit at the time. Mm-hmm. And boom, from there, it just, the powder started selling well. And then I launched the Clovis Culture podcast. I started taking on clients, building custom nutrition plans. And now here I am on your show. It's kind of crazy.
That's amazing how life takes us in a journey in a totally different trajectory. And, it's amazing when you go into a hospital, right? You look at the food is one thing, right? That's supposed to be a healing environment, and they're giving people Jell-O and French fries and all this crap. And then to think of a baby who's like just so sensitive to everything, and they're putting this stuff in them is crazy. And I mean, it starts with, hey, hospitals are great in a crisis, right? But they're never designed to actually promote health and keep us going. And I'm glad that that your little niece had you in her corner, because most people in that situation don't, right? They're just following the advice of the doctor, just taking it at their face value. And that's a really dangerous thing, right? And so as you've gone to transform things, so now what are you really working on now to just start to transform people's lives and health? I mean, obviously you're doing Clovis and you're helping with that. Like, what is your big focus right now?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, it's like you said, right? A lot of people get this, they hear my story and they think that I'm anti-doctor. Nothing could be further from the truth. I work with functional medicine doctors. They're in charge of my health. I do extensive blood work and all these things. They're wonderful doctors. And even the mainstream guys got into it to help people. Yeah. It's like they don't know what they don't know. So the whole company is built on the back of what I consider to be injustices. So I really think that for most people, health is an obstacle. And I'm trying to help them get around the obstacle. Like, most people don't want to be paleo or keto or vegan or carnivore. They don't want to be Ben Greenfield. They don't want to be Dave Asprey. They really just want to be healthy, happy, and able to live their best life. So that's what I help them do. We start with just an approved foods list. Can I get rid of some of these ultra processed foods that you're eating that are messing with your hormones? And, I think the average person now in America eats something like 4 pounds of food a day, and it's 2,400 calories. Where if we really scoop in and focus on nutrient density, you could eat 6 pounds of food and it would be 1,600 calories. You see what I mean? So yeah. It's really this focus on nutrient density. And the best way for me to wrap it up is I have these t-shirts that just say, eat whole foods, change the world. If I can get you back to eating foods as they exist in nature, we can debate macros and micros and calories and fitness till the cows come home, but that's the foundation. So I'm just trying to help people really simplify so that they can actually live their best life. It's the company mission is self-actualization. That's the best way to look at it.
Absolutely. And I like how you said that. It's building that foundation. It's not about the quantity as it is the quality, right? The quality of foods we put in our body are going to equal the quality of results we get on the outside. And so whether it's us looking better on the outside, at the end of the day, it's a side effect, right? We want to get ourselves well on the inside, and that side effect will be, hey, we lose the weight. Hey, our hair looks more lush and beautiful. Our skin is more vibrant. Like, all these things that we maybe do want on the outside all come from the inside, right? It's that inside out approach. And so what are some of the things that you guys work on in your company in Clovis? I know you have the perfect paleo powder. You got I was looking on your website the other day, this bone broth peptides as well. So what are some things that you're working at, like at that nutritional foundational level, that you're really helping people with on that aspect?
Yeah, the foundational level starts with elimination. It always does for me. It starts with the removal of processed foods. When most people they come to me dealing with metabolic inflexibility. So we have to kind of taper down the carbohydrates. We'll start there, focus on like a kind of a high protein, low energy approach to deal with body composition, because everybody comes to me for body composition. We have an obesity epidemic. That's just what it is. So the supplements and stuff are great. I love the perfect paleo powder. I got a new one coming out called Clovis Complete, a new superfood. But there's no supplement in the world, as you know, that's going to give you the body composition or health results that you want in the absence of a proper nutrition protocol. So I really try to get people to move into the custom nutrition protocols as much as I can. It's a 22-question intake quiz. We go through, do you have an autoimmune condition? Do you have a gallbladder? Are you 100 pounds overweight? And I actually tweak those custom plans based on the information I get from them. So we're really dealing with customized nutrition with a focus on nutrient density and removal of these hyperpalatable processed foods to get people the results that they're after. But I think of myself as a bit of a Trojan horse, because I'm like, I care so much about childhood nutrition, but kids aren't in charge of their diet, right? So if I can help mom and dad lose 14 pounds in 30 days or whatever it is, now my content is kind of in their household. And I'm like, okay, a lot of people are struggling. They're not happy. Kids are having behavioral problems, and mom's on an antidepressant and dad's on, a statin drug and hypertension meds, and they can't figure out why there's so much conflict in the house, because everyone's just kind of suffering, So that's the way I see it, is can I get these core principles into a household and help people live their best lives by building that foundation like you talked about.
Well, that's a great approach, because at the end of the day, where are kids getting their food? Like you said, I mean, if you don't buy it as a parent, the kid's not going to have it. They're not going to have access to it. And a lot of times I see parents that are just so worried about what their kids think of them, or, oh gosh, if my little Johnny doesn't eat if I don't give him his, Pop-Tarts and mac and cheese. It's like, well, you know what? He might throw a fit. Eventually he's going to eat though. He's not going to starve himself to death. And it's just, it's like finding some of the things that they like, giving them more of those things, and slowly start to transition. And that household will be transformed, like you said, through the parents. So for you parents listening out there, be the parent, right? Don't worry about being their best friend. So that's key. Now, what are some of the things that you're seeing the most? Obviously, your passion is children, and you want to see them live their best version of themselves. So are a lot of your clients typically the parents, or do you work with children too?
Typically the parents. I started a whole separate kind of company called Clovis Kids, where I was Mr. Justin, and I do these fun videos and really talk directly to kids and stuff. But the problems that you're talking about really crept up. I was finding that, like, if most of my audience is moms. It's like middle-aged moms, they're married, they have kids. But the problem is, if mom doesn't feel good about herself, it's very difficult to get that trickle-down effect where the kids are having their lives change. It becomes this thing. If mom is tired and she's overweight and she's choosing foods that spike her glucose up and down all day and her energy levels are suffering, it's a lot harder to deal with the tantrum that's going to come when you say no more Cinnamon Toast Crunch, no more Mountain Dew, no more donuts, all this stuff. Like I said, it's this infighting inside of the household. So I try to really take it on as like a team. I have this one client, this woman, Shannon, she lost 100 pounds and she homeschools 8 kids, right?
Wow.
And we just transformed that whole household. And they sent me little videos of the kids saying, like, Mr. Justin says we can't have that and blah, blah, blah. So I'm really trying, man, it is a focus on happiness. That's it. And I really think that the low-hanging fruit for happiness is cleaning up the diet. Your body, all this biochemistry stuff that's going on, is not working in your favor to let you live a happy, healthy life where you're just getting along with your family every day. That's what I want to, again, get rid of that obstacle that is health and wellness.
Well, I mean, if anyone just proved that you can get over the obstacles, it's that client you talked about right there. 8 kids, homeschool, and so was able to find the time, have the commitment to change some habits to lose 100 pounds. And I think a lot of people think that it's just too overwhelming. They think, hey, I have to change everything all at once. I have to starve myself. I have to eat like a bird. There's just like a lot of myths out there that people have, preconceived notions. So what are some major obstacles that you see people facing when they come in to see you, to consult with you, that is keeping them from getting started and then being able to maintain those things?
I'll tell you the number one. It's crazy. And this is way more in women than men. But the number one is women are not eating enough. I really think we have an epidemic, and maybe not, let's leave calories out of it. We'll say they're starved for nutrients.
Yeah.
Right. So I have women coming to me that are following a 1,200 calorie diet and they're 200 pounds. I mean, they're severely underfeeding themselves. And that 1,200 calories, because of mainstream advice, is like healthy whole grains. It's like brown rice and tilapia every day, and they can't lose weight. Now someone like me comes in and I say, hey, listen, you're 200 pounds. Maybe you need to eat 1,600 calories. And I want you to get a gram of protein per body weight. They're messaging me on day one saying, I can't eat all this food. I can't eat all this food. And it's so backwards because everyone just assumes that obese people are eating a ton of food all the time. And that's not the case. They're choosing the wrong foods, messing up their leptin and ghrelin signals. All these things are going crazy in the body. Their hormones are out of whack. I know you're big into hormones. And they can't figure out why they can't get the results that they want, but they're really brainwashed. So I come in and I say, you need to eat more food total and more of the right foods to lose weight. And they cannot wrap their heads around it. So the biggest obstacle, hands down, is mindset. That's it. I mean, they look at you like you're a crazy person when you want them to eat more food to lose weight.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's the thing that we got to wrap our minds around is sometimes less is more. Sometimes we got to get the right things in. And it's not a matter of really reinventing the wheel. It's just following the guidance of someone that's done it before, right? You've helped tons of people do these things. These things work. And sometimes different things work for different people, but the vast majority of the foundational principles work for everyone. I mean, we're genetically the same, right? So there's different journeys we've had where we've had issues that have maybe stunted certain pathways in our body, and we got to remove some interferences to get that area of the body working. But at the end of the day, it's just following the path. And sometimes you probably come to this and realize this with your clients is that sometimes the person who's doing all the things you tell them starts to lose weight in a week. The other person, it maybe is month 2 or 3 before their metabolism starts to kick in. So what do you have? What kind of advice do you have for people that maybe aren't seeing the results right away, that are doing a lot of these right things, but they're just not quite seeing the results right off the bat?
It's again the mindset piece, because one of my favorite quotes of all time is the journey is the destination. And we've again been brainwashed into 7-day challenge, 14-day challenge, 21-day boot camp, 30-day, whole 30, right? Whole 30 is one of the biggest things ever. But it becomes this thing of like, hey, I finished my 30 days and now I get to have some cheesecake. I need the switch to go off that you're trying to adopt a new lifestyle long-term. And if you are struggling, we can get into some interesting things. I had one woman that was hundreds of pounds overweight and just couldn't lose a pound, even following Clovis. So I got her in, I gave her a recommendation to a good functional medicine doctor, ran some blood work, and she had all sorts of these like chemical, like she had heavy metal toxicity. They were like testing her for glyphosate and all these things. It was nuts. And what it was for her was actually an extended bone broth fast. I think she did, I believe it was a 14-day extended bone broth fast, and she lost like 30 pounds. It was staggering. So it's true what you're saying. This modern day environment has really impacted human bodies in a way where different results are going to happen at different speeds based on the severity of the metabolic dysfunction. And it's different for everyone. So you got to go into this with a long-term mindset. This is a journey that you're on. And what we're really working on today is your next 50 years of life. I'm not working on your next 14 days so you can get into a bikini. That's not my goal.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the big picture. It's just looking at it as a lifestyle. It's not just, you said, these next 3 months, these next 10 pounds, these next 30 pounds. It's really looking at the big picture. And what are you anchoring yourself to? So what do you work on with your clients to help them get that mindset motivation so they can anchor to something, so that they're just not doing this superficial, hey, I want to lose X amount of pounds so I can fit in that bikini. Often what I found is that clients that actually lose the weight and make the long-lasting changes have a bigger purpose that's bigger than themselves. So what do you help your patients with that?
100%, man. It's like I talked about Savannah. Savannah gave me nutrition with purpose. So I always go back to self-love. I love having women look into, there's an amazing author named Trisha Nelson. She talks about emotional eating. Emotional eating is huge for women, where what they do, they play this mindset trick on themselves where they say, I deserve this Dr. Pepper. I deserve this bottle of wine. I deserve this cheesecake. It was a really hard week, so I deserve the cinnamon rolls on Saturday. But that's really not self-love. If you look at the science, we look at the things that we know about hyperpalatable foods, these are toxic. These are poisons that you're putting in your body. So if I can get the mindset to shift like, hey, I deserve the highest quality foods that are going to nourish my body. Would a person who loves themselves poison themselves with Dr. Pepper every day, even just one Dr. Pepper, moderation, right? If you know that's a toxic substance and you love yourself, can you continue pouring that into your body? And when that switch goes off, it's much, much easier to avoid these cheat days and all the stuff that people justify.
Absolutely. I mean, you are worth it. I think that's one of the biggest statements I think that people got to understand is they should be proud of themselves. They've done a lot of good things, right? They're worth more than what they're giving themselves. I was just at a seminar this last weekend, and one of the takeaways I had was a line the speaker said was like, hey, the first thing you should talk about is giving yourself permission to be proud of yourself. Because oftentimes, like you said, with women specifically, I think with more one side of their brain than the other. And that one side of the brain that is always talking to them is all that emotional side. And when we can start to change that emotional thinking for women, that's a big thing. With men, it's more the movement aspect. Women, it's that emotional component. And man, we start to change that and like, hey, you're worth it. You deserve this. That's a huge mindset change right there. So, Justin, what are some of the ways that people can start to work with Clovis? I don't know if they're able to work with you or if you have other team members. How does that work? And what does that look like? Where can they go?
Yeah, the best place to go, if you want to dive in with a full-blown custom nutrition plan, my website is I Am Clovis, IAMCLOVIS. So IamClovis.com/start will take you straight to get a custom nutrition plan created directly by me. And that is, we can work together. But if you're not ready to dive in head first, I have IamClovis.com/crash course. And this is a free 5-day crash course. It's 5 video lessons, a daily email, and you get the whole overarching view of what is Clovis and how this thing works and just some free information. So you go through that 5 days and you can decide how far you want to take it from there. And then my podcast, the Clovis Culture Podcast, I have over 400 hours of like full-blown whiteboard presentations that I've done on everything from emotional eating to depression to biochemistry. That's
awesome. That's awesome. So we'll make sure we put those links on the show notes for you guys as well, so you guys can get that information. Super important to make sure we're just, really switching up how we're doing things. Sometimes if something's not working for you, do something different, right? You got to reach out and just change it up sometimes. And, a lot of times it's just not necessarily that we're doing something different. It's just we're resonating with someone. And we're maybe, someone's going to listen to this podcast and be like, man, I didn't really resonate with Dr. Chris at all, but wow, something about Justin, like he motivates me. I want to get more information about that and start to learn. And then they start to grow and change. It could be that 2-degree shift is usually the difference between us staying down the same path or totally transforming our life into a whole other dimension that we had no idea we were even capable of. And that's what I love about things like this, just this tweaking, the customization, just finding that right niche and the thing that's going to work for you. So Justin, if you could give one piece of advice for someone that wants to make a difference today in changing their nutrition, maybe a biohack, something they could implement today, what would be the one thing that you would tell them to do?
Yeah, I think the simplest thing is to look at the foods you're eating. Even if you have packaged foods, look at the ingredients. Does this thing exist in nature in this form? That's a big thing to ask yourself. Like whole wheat pasta doesn't exist in nature. If you're hiking through the woods, you're never going to stumble upon a bagel tree. So I don't care how many people tell you a whole grain bagel is good for you. This does not exist in nature. If we can use that one simple trick, forget about counting calories, macros, all that. Does the food you're eating exist in nature? If the answer is yes, you are on a very good path.
That's key. I mean, the bagel tree doesn't exist. What are you talking about? I thought,
I know, right?
Right. I thought after watching like Willy Wonka, I thought like gummy bears just grow on trees, right? It's all God's food, right? No, that's cool. I mean, that's the basis, I think, of everything you stand for is really just, hey, we have everything on this earth we need. The more we stay away from the man-made stuff, the better off we're going to be. We want the man-made stuff when we're in a crisis, maybe, right? Like when your little niece was in that crisis state, the doctors saved her life and got her to a certain point. But then at a certain point, like you had to take over there. You had to help give her body what it needs. And it's the same thing with anything. So for you, Justin, what does reaching your fullest potential mean for your life and for your clients?
For me personally, and it's interesting. So let's assume that the nutrition foundation is built because you need it for this ultimate goal. For me, everything I look at from my own life is viewed through the lens of autonomy. Does this give me ultimate freedom? And that's the number one question for me. If a pandemic hits, is my income wiped out? Okay, that's a problem. Maybe my system wasn't set up the right way. Did I have the right foods in the house to get through a 2-week lockdown? Maybe my system wasn't set up the right way. I want ultimate freedom. I want financial freedom. If you're on 5 prescription medications and you got to see a doctor every other week and you're doing daily insulin injections, is that freedom or is that just another ball and chain? Mm-hmm. And I want people to experience ultimate freedom. That's it.
That's cool. That's actually one of our 5 foundations that we work with is freedom, right? Which is, like you said, freedom in your finances, freedom in your spiritual life, freedom in your relationships, just being able to have that fluidity. Because if not, like you said, we're bound. We could be bound by a bad relationship. We can be bound by a food craving. We can be bound by a perceived disability that we have. And that's huge. So I love that, man. So, hey, I appreciate having you on today and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. And I look forward to having just our listeners check out your stuff today as well, and maybe even check out some of your musician work, some of your artist work too, man. I'm thinking about having you come up and do some of those dueling pianos, man. That would be amazing. So that's a whole other podcast we can get into, right?
Yeah. Anytime you want me, man, I'll come up.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk to you soon.
Right back at you, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. To get this and other episodes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to newedgewellness.com or listen to the Happy Healthy Hormones with Dr. Chris podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher.